So Luminoso was founded in December of 2010. We had really been working pretty closely with a couple of different companies who were ready to try it out, I think, when it hit market, and that was very exciting for us. And one of the biggest things that we figured out right off the bat was that it wasn't just analytics that was important, it was also being able to communicate the results the computer got that were important. And so one of the early things we did in the company that we hadn't done at MIT was pay attention to visualization and really look into how can we communicate those results. And I think that's also a differentiator besides the technology. At the time, text analytics in the commercial world really falls into two big categories. One of which is sort of the most statistical techniques that you can think of, and this is things that are driven by how often do words appear next to each other. And it requires a lot of data to get right, because many of the connections that we think of and hold dear are not connections we say all the time. And so in order to even make those connections, you would have to look at a lot of text. On the flip side of that, there were systems that relied on something called an ontology, or a rule set, which is a big hand-coded, essentially aid to the computer to be able to understand the way text worked. But it wasn't adaptive. As the world changed, as the way people talked changed, the ontology didn't keep up unless you kept it up yourself. And that really was a problem, because consumers are talking in different ways all the time. Companies are introducing new SKUs, new other sorts of information. It becomes very difficult to keep up. You're essentially taking the person out of one part of the process and putting it in another part of the process, which isn't really solving your problem. So Luminoso is a SaaS-based company. We have two products. Our dashboard allows you to take in everything from survey open ends to your chat that your customer has with your representatives on your webpage, and be able to take it and build out actionable insights on everything from what features you should improve, to be able to make more people be advocates to your product, to, which of the items did people buy when they went shopping on Black Friday that were actually the reason they came to your store in the first place. And for the most part, that works with static quantities of data. So you have survey open ends, you have social media from last year, you have forum information. There's incredibly rich information probably about your product online somewhere, and it's not in social media. So some of that. I think it's really interesting that there's a lot of text online in places people wouldn't think there are. There are entire forums devoted to shaving, devoted to cars, devoted to how to optimize airline travel. And many people don't look in those places. They look in social, they look in Twitter, and there's really high quality data there. So it doesn't really matter where your text comes from, and I think that's one of the strengths of Luminoso. When we're reading text, it doesn't matter to us whether or not it's a tweet or whether or not it's English written very properly in the New York Times. We're still going to be able to read it and adapt to it, and I think that's one of the things that our technology is very strong in. When we read and understand things, we learn new words and we refine our context-dependent definitions of words based on what's going on in the text that we're reading. And our technology does the same thing. It's essentially trying to understand how a particular word is used and seeing if it can make relations or analogies between the way other words were used to be able to guess its meaning. And thus it can learn new words, it can learn jargon, it can learn words that are now meaning something else. So the carousel on the Amazon Kindle Fire is your home screen with your recommendations. And probably our model based on ConceptNet thought it was horses that went round in a circle. So it needed to be able to learn that, and we needed to be able to build out that capability.